The story begins with a high school basketball game where a boy named Mason is playing for his team. The match is extremely tight and only 44 seconds are left. Their team is losing when the coach quickly makes a plan and tells Dean to steal the ball somehow and pass it to Mason because he is their best shooter. Dean instantly grabs the ball and passes it to Mason, and Mason quickly scores 2 points. But in the middle of the game, Mason suddenly notices a burning man standing in the crowd, and the sight shakes him for a moment. Yet the game continues. On the other side, in the final seconds, Dean passes the ball to Mason again, and Mason goes for the shot, but at that exact moment, the terrifying burning man appears right in front of him and slowly stretches out his blackened hand toward him. Even then, Mason somehow manages to take the shot, and the ball goes into the basket, winning the match for their team. All the players rush toward Mason in celebration, but deep inside, Mason is completely terrified and immediately runs away to the locker room. As soon as he enters the locker room, Mason starts feeling an unsettling fear. His hands begin to tremble, and he opens his locker and starts throwing everything out in panic. Suddenly, he finds something strange, and at that same moment, a faint voice whispers his name. Terrified, Mason starts searching for something to protect himself, but then the burning man appears in front of him once again. Mason begs for his life, but when it doesn't stop, he snaps in fear and anger and breaks that strange object. After that, Mason looks toward the door and feels a slight sense of relief as he sees his teammates coming in. But the real horror is far from over. When he goes to take a shower, he hears that strange sound again. As he looks down, he notices something like ash, and the moment he turns around, the same burning man suddenly grabs his neck and forces his hand inside his throat. Within seconds, Mason's entire body bursts into flames. Hearing his painful screams, his teammates rush into the bathroom, but by then, it is already too late. On the other side, 6 months later, we see a girl named Chris, who has moved into her cousin's house. She is sitting near the window, calmly sketching, but suddenly she drifts into her own thoughts. Her gaze freezes on the ground, as if dark and disturbing thoughts are running through her mind. Just then, her cousin Ray snaps her back to reality and tells her that he will help her set up her things. On the other side, after reaching school, Ray starts showing Chris around the entire campus. That's when Chris notices a girl named Ellie. After a while, Chris is assigned a locker, which has the word horse written on it. Ray tells her that it used to be Mason's nickname, and hearing this makes the atmosphere a bit uncomfortable. Just then, Dean and a few of his friends suddenly show up and surround Chris. They start warning her not to use that locker out of respect for Mason. The tension begins to rise, but then a girl named Grace steps in and stops Dean. She jokes that this school is so old that anyone who once had these lockers must be dead by now, so what's the point? Her words lighten the mood a little. On the other side, Ray sees Grace and tries to flirt with her, but as always, he fails miserably. Just then, Dean finds out that Chris is a new student, and he starts making fun of her. He says he heard that Chris came from a rehab center and even killed her own father. Hearing this, Ellie immediately steps in and tries to stop him, but Dean refuses to back off. Now Chris finally loses her temper, and she delivers a hard kick to Dean. At that moment, Mr. Craven Hall arrives in the hallway and gets furious seeing everyone fighting. As punishment, he suspends Chris, Dean, Grace, and Ray from school for a few days. Even when Ellie tries to defend Chris, she ends up getting punished too. On the other side, after everyone leaves, Ellie approaches Chris and tries to befriend her, but Chris clearly refuses and says she doesn't need anyone's help. Ellie quietly walks away. Now Chris is left all alone, and she opens her locker. Inside, she finds Mason's old belongings, including that same broken, mysterious object. Suddenly, she hears a faint whispering voice, as if something is calling out to her. Caught between fear and curiosity, Chris decides to open that object. As soon as she opens it, a strange whistle appears inside. Chris is just about to blow it, but suddenly the school bell rings. She quickly puts the whistle back and rushes toward her class. In the afternoon, Chris arrives late for class. As soon as she places her bag on the table, that same mysterious whistle falls out from inside it. Seeing it, Dean mocks her and says it looks like some kind of smoking pipe, and immediately reports it to Mr. Craven. Just then, Kevin carefully examines the whistle and says it looks like some kind of musical instrument. He tries to read the strange symbols written on it. When Craven also looks at those symbols, Grace quickly searches them on the internet, and the truth that comes out shocks everyone. It means to call back the dead. Now something else is running through Craven's mind. He says he will keep the whistle with him to find out its value. He also reveals that Chris found this item in her locker. Then he tells all the students to leave early and ends the class by assigning them an essay. On the other side, after all the students parents leave, Craven searches about the whistle online in private and finds out that it is extremely valuable. Greed takes over him and he plans to sell it, but suddenly he hears a faint whispering voice, as if something is calling him. The voice pushes him to blow the whistle. Driven by fear and curiosity, Craven blows it, and at that very moment, a crack appears in the window. Seeing this, he panics and quickly puts the whistle back, but before leaving, he finalizes a deal for the whistle online, meaning the danger is about to grow. Outside, Grace tells everyone to meet later. After the others leave, Ray tries to talk to Chris about her father and says that what happened wasn't her fault, but Chris doesn't want to talk about it and ignores him. Just then, Ray remembers that he left something in the classroom, and he quickly runs back. When he reaches the classroom, he sees Craven's laptop left open, showing the price of the whistle. Seeing this, a dangerous idea sparks in Ray's mind. Just then, a guy named Nova approaches Chris, who talks about religion on the outside, but in reality manipulates people. He invites Chris to come to his church, and at the same time tries to sell her drugs. When Chris refuses, he even starts offering her a free sample. The situation slowly turns dangerous. Suddenly, Ray shows up and angrily tells Nova to stay away from his sister. But Nova is extremely dangerous. He easily overpowers Ray and slams him hard against a car. Then he pulls out a knife and starts calling himself a man sent by God. Before leaving, he tells Chris that whenever she needs him, he will always be there for her, and then walks away. As soon as Nova leaves, Ray tells Chris that this man is very dangerous. He sells drugs to kids who come to his church, and a year ago, one child even died of an overdose because of him. Hearing this makes everything even more serious. On the other side, as evening falls, Craven realizes at school that the mysterious whistle is missing. He panics and starts searching for it everywhere, but it's nowhere to be found. Just then, he hears the sound of someone walking. He assumes it might be the janitor, but when he steps outside, he notices a strange and terrifying figure in the darkness. Suddenly, a hand touches his shoulder and he gets scared, but it turns out to be just the janitor. By then, the mysterious figure has disappeared, so Craven thinks it was just his imagination, but the real horror is yet to come. When he returns to the classroom, he notices his breath becoming visible in the cold air, as if the temperature has suddenly dropped, and the moment he turns around, a horrifying demon stands right in front of him, with blood dripping from its mouth. The creature grabs Craven and crushes his lungs so violently that he dies on the spot. At that same moment, the janitor passes by but sees nothing at all, as if all of this is happening only to Craven. Within moments, blood starts pouring out of Craven's mouth, and his body begins transforming into the same demonic form, before collapsing to the ground. On the other side, at Chris's house, it is revealed that Ray was the one who stole the whistle. Now he and his friends are planning to have fun with it, but Chris doesn't want to be part of it. She says she just wants to rest. Meanwhile, Chris notices Ellie quietly injecting insulin into her leg, and seeing this makes her pause in thought. At the same time, Chris's younger brother Timmy tries to peek into their gathering, but he is sent back to his room. After a while, Chris says she wants to leave, but Ellie tries to stop her, as if she wants Chris to stay there. The atmosphere suddenly shifts when Dean gives Grace a dangerous dare. He tells her to blow the whistle. The moment Grace blows it, an extremely loud and painful sound echoes throughout the room. Everyone covers their ears. For a few seconds, everything feels frozen. When the sound stops, Dean tells everyone to stay quiet, because he thinks he hears something strange. The others also start listening carefully, but then Dean suddenly makes a noise himself, making it seem like he was just joking, and the mood settles down a bit. On the other side, Chris leaves the place, and Ellie runs after her. She invites her to the upcoming Harvest Festival, and says it would mean a lot if she came. After a moment of hesitation, Chris agrees, and Ellie happily walks away. Now Chris asks Ray an awkward question. Does Ellie like boys or girls? But Ray doesn't have a clear answer. After reaching home, Chris thinks about texting Ellie, but she can't figure out what to write. Every message feels weird to her. Suddenly, her eyes catch a shadow standing on a tree outside the window. It feels like someone is watching her, and she gets scared. Just then, Ray suddenly enters the room, startling her. When she looks outside again, there is no one there, as if nothing was ever there. At that same moment, Ellie's message pops up on her phone, and Chris gets a little nervous, because she had accidentally sent a flirty message. But surprisingly, Ellie actually likes it. Then Ray takes her phone to help and starts sending even cuter messages to Ellie, slowly building a bond between them. On the other side, after everyone leaves, Grace sits alone and starts writing her essay, but then she begins to hear strange whispering voices again and again, as if someone is calling her name. At first, she thinks it might be Timmy playing a prank, but when she notices that his room light is off, she realizes something is wrong. Suddenly, a terrifying figure rushes past behind her, and that same whispering voice starts calling her again. Now, frightened, Grace begins to follow the sound. She checks everywhere, but finds nothing, until suddenly, a cold hand touches her. When she turns around, she sees Timmy standing there, but one question fills Grace's mind. If Timmy is standing that far away, then who touched her? The next morning at school, all the students are called for an assembly. The principal announces that Mr. Craven has died, and the cause is said to be lung cancer. Everything seems normal, but then something strange starts happening to Ellie. She notices a girl sitting in front of her trembling, and suddenly, her neck twists in a disturbing way. Then the girl slowly turns her head toward Ellie. Her face looks horrifying, and she starts whispering Ellie's name. Ellie freezes in fear, but at that moment, Grace quietly hands the whistle to Chris, and instantly, Ellie snaps out of that terrifying vision. When she looks again, the creepy girl is gone, as if nothing ever happened. On the other side, after class ends, Ellie and Chris make a decision. They feel that maybe Mason's family would want the whistle back, so they go to his house. When they knock on the door, they realize it's already open, which feels unsettling. Both of them step inside, and an old piece of music is playing in the background. They begin looking around at the old and valuable items in the house, when suddenly Mason's grandmother Ivy appears behind them. Without saying much, she angrily starts questioning them. Ivy reveals that she has spent her entire life traveling the world, collecting such ancient and mysterious objects. She has studied different civilizations, especially to understand how people make deals with death. Seeing the shelves filled with countless medicine bottles, it's clear she is dealing with something serious. Now Chris tries to give the whistle back to Ivy and explains that she found it in Mason's locker, but Ivy refuses to take it and says that it now belongs to her because it came to her, just like it once came to Ivy and Mason. Then Ivy reveals the terrifying truth about the whistle. She says this cursed object was found by her years ago in an alley in Guatemala, and since then, it has taken the lives of her daughter, her son-in-law, and now her grandson Mason as well. She further explains that the symbols carved on the whistle actually mean to summon your own death. Every person is born with their death already destined, but it comes at its own time. However, if someone hears the sound of this whistle, their death arrives sooner and they don't live much longer after that. Hearing all this makes the atmosphere even more terrifying, and in the end, Ivy hands the whistle back to Chris and firmly says, "You should have never picked it up. Now it will stay with you." In the evening, Chris and Ellie reach the hospital record room to uncover the truth. Ellie already suspects that Mason's death wasn't normal because he burned while showering, yet it was labeled as a gas leak. When they check his file, they discover that his body was so badly burned that it was identified only through his teeth. Suddenly, someone enters the room, and both girls quickly hide behind the shelves. During that moment, Mason's reports fall to the floor. Chris picks up one of the papers and reads it, and the truth that comes out is even more shocking. According to the report, based on the structure of Mason's bones, his age should have been between 45 to 50 years, even though he was actually a teenager. This makes it clear that what Ivy said was true. That means whoever hears the whistle, their death doesn't come at its destined time, but much earlier. Now both of them realize how dangerous this is and that they need to tell the others. So without checking any more papers, they quietly leave the place. On the other side, the Harvest Festival has already begun. Everyone is enjoying themselves in different costumes. Meanwhile, Ray finds Grace and gathers the courage to confess his feelings to her, saying that he likes her. But Grace gently turns him down and gives him a kiss on the cheek before going back to her boyfriend, leaving Ray heartbroken. On the other side, Dean starts making fun of Ray's costume, and feeling hurt, Ray begins drinking alcohol. Just then, Ellie and Chris arrive, but Nova shows up again and starts harassing them, calling them offensive names. This time, Ellie gets angry and kicks Nova hard, but in response, Nova pulls out a knife, and the situation suddenly turns dangerous. At that moment, Chris steps forward, pins his hand down with her foot, snatches the knife, and places it right against his nose. Now, Chris questions him about the child who died from an overdose, but Nova clearly denies knowing anything. Hearing this, Chris loses her temper and cuts his nose. After that, she throws the knife away, proving that she is no longer the weak girl she once was, but now someone ready to face any danger. Inside the festival maze, Dean and Grace get separated from each other. All around them, people are roaming in terrifying costumes, making the atmosphere even more horrifying. Dean finds a wooden spinning board there, which he turns, and it lands on the words, "You choose your own fate." On the other side, Grace starts feeling something strange when she suddenly notices an old woman surrounded by a mysterious glow. The moment the woman calls her name, Grace panics and runs away, but the fear doesn't end there. Within moments, the old woman appears in front of her again. Now terrified, Grace calls Dean, but he assumes it's just someone in a costume trying to scare her. Suddenly, the old woman frightens Grace so badly that she falls, dropping her phone. Out of fear, Grace grabs a nearby shovel. Just then, then, the old woman raises her hand and points behind her. And when Grace turns around, she sees the same woman standing right behind her. Shocked, Grace attacks her with full force. Both of them fall to the ground. When Grace regains her senses, she feels blood dripping from her forehead and realizes that the same injury she gave the old woman has appeared on her as well. Then the woman slowly stands up with a disturbing smile, her body twisting unnaturally as she rises. Now she starts chasing Grace. Desperate to survive, Grace runs with all her strength. On the other side, Dean grows worried because Grace isn't answering her phone. He begins searching for her everywhere. While running, Grace gets trapped in a dead end, but then she finds a hidden passage in the wall and crawls inside. However, the old woman quickly reaches her and grabs her leg. Her terrifying fingers start digging into Grace's leg, and then she forces her hand into Grace's throat, causing her body to begin changing. Somehow, Grace manages to break free and moves forward, reaching the center of the maze. But her nightmare isn't over. The old woman appears in front of her once again, this time standing on a pole of light. And then, the woman grabs Grace and kisses her. The moment it happens, Grace's body starts aging rapidly. By the time Dean reaches her, it's already too late. Grace is no longer a young girl, but a wrinkled, aged body. And seeing this leaves Dean completely shattered. In the school gym, Dean clearly refuses to believe that the body they found was Grace's. But Chris and Ellie remind him of the truth Ivy had revealed, that whoever hears the whistle, their death comes before its destined time. They both say that even they have felt their own deaths getting closer. Still, Dean refuses to accept it. Then Ray reminds him that he was the one who dared Grace to blow the whistle, which means he is responsible for her death. Hearing this, Dean angrily pushes Ray and starts mocking his love for Grace. Heartbroken, Ray walks away. On the other side, a drunk Dean climbs into his room through the window. As soon as he looks into the mirror, he sees a terrifying man whose body is covered in horrific injuries. Dean panics and steps back, accidentally knocking over a lamp. He quickly turns on the lights, but the man has disappeared. Just then, his parents knock on the door and ask what happened. Dean makes an excuse, saying he just had a bad dream, but his father angrily scolds him, saying his actions will get him killed one day, and that moment is about to come true. On the other side, at her home, Chris reveals the biggest truth of her life to Ellie. She says that a year ago she had overdosed. Her father was taking her to the hospital to save her, but they got into an accident, and her father died on the spot. She breaks down thinking that she should have died instead. Ellie comforts her, supports her, and the two grow closer. On the other side, Ray sits alone on the rooftop in the rain, remembering Grace. Suddenly, he starts seeing disturbing visions, like blood on his hands, or a body getting crushed in a machine, but it's all in his mind. The next day, Chris, Ellie, and Ray visit Ivy, who is now lying extremely ill on her bed. Ivy reveals the final truth. If they want to stop this death, they must transfer it to someone else. When Chris draws a symbol with her blood and looks into the mirror, she sees her death standing right behind her, holding a weapon. This terrifies all of them even more. Suddenly, Ivy dies. Now the biggest question stands before them. What should they do? Ray wants to transfer his death to someone else to save himself, but Ellie is against it because it would cost another life. This leads to an argument between them, and Ray walks away alone. On the other side, at home, Dean watches the news of Grace's death on TV, but he still can't believe it. Suddenly, his bedroom door slightly opens, and a terrifying hand appears from inside. In fear, Dean throws a chair at the door and quickly shuts it. His parents come rushing in after hearing the noise, but it's already too late. Suddenly, everything in the room starts shaking on its own, and then that invisible death appears in front of Dean. It grabs his head and begins twisting his body like in a horrific car crash. Slowly, injury marks start appearing on his body. His bones begin to break, and all his internal organs start failing. By the time his parents break the door and rush inside, it's already too late. Dean lies on the floor, now nothing more than a lifeless body. Chris and Ellie reach Ray's room while searching for him, but he isn't there. They find some of his photos, which reveal that he used to work at a steel factory. They also find a comic book where a hero is killing a bad man, and this gives them a major clue. On the other side, Ray has already reached the church. He sees Nova saying goodbye to the kids, and as soon as everyone leaves, he enters with a gun. He fires at a flower pot to scare Nova, making it clear that this is no joke. Suddenly, the church bell rings, distracting Ray, and Nova takes advantage of the moment to attack him. A brutal fight breaks out between them. Ray falls down, and Nova snatches his gun, but when Nova tries to fire, the gun doesn't work. Ray seizes the chance, hits him with a tray, and knocks him unconscious. On the other side, when Nova regains consciousness, he finds himself tied up in a steel factory. Now Ray pulls out drugs from his pocket and forces him to take them, then cuts his own hand to draw blood and takes out the whistle. His plan is clear, to transfer his death to Nova. But just as he starts drawing symbols on Nova with his blood, Chris and Ellie arrive and try to stop him. In anger, Ray points the gun at them. Nova begins begging for his life, and the girls also try to calm Ray down. down. Eventually, Ray stops, but suddenly he hears his name being called. An unseen force grabs his hand. The gun falls, and within seconds, his body starts breaking apart, as if a machine is crushing him. In just moments, his body is torn into pieces. Seeing this horrifying scene, Nova faints, and watching her brother die like this completely shatters Chris. But then she remembers an idea, and immediately rushes to the hospital with Ellie. After reaching there, Chris explains her plan. Using insulin, the heart can be stopped for a short time, meaning she can fake death to trick it, and then be revived with another injection. Both of them quickly prepare everything in a closed room. Chris wants to save Ellie first, but suddenly Ellie injects her with insulin. This makes Chris realize that her time has come. Her body falls into a tub of cold water. Slowly, her breathing begins to stop. As she dies, she silently apologizes to her family. Then Ellie pulls her out and starts giving injections and electric shocks, but the death begins taking control of her mind. It doesn't want to let her come back. Meanwhile, Nova regains consciousness and starts breaking the door. Inside, Ellie's own death appears in front of her, taking the form of that same terrifying girl she saw in the assembly. Nova shoots through the door. The machine breaks. Ellie gets injured too, but she keeps calling Chris's name again and again, and that voice gives Chris the strength to fight back. In the end, Chris pushes death away and comes back to life. Just then, Nova enters and says that God created everyone for a purpose, but the moment he touches Ellie's blood, his own death appears before him. He fires his gun, but every bullet ends up hurting him instead, and within moments, he dies too. Now the danger is finally over. Chris hugs Ellie, and both of them look at the broken whistle, which is now useless. 3 months later, Chris still sometimes sees glimpses of her death, but she has learned to live happily with Ellie. But the story doesn't end here. A new girl finds that same whistle in her locker, and she blows it during assembly, and from that moment, the terrifying cycle begins again. So, how did you like this movie? Do share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories. See you in the next video.